transforming worlds to a better wonder to behold. No poverty, zero hunger for the elderly or younger. Good health and well-being, good education, empowering women to become sensation. Clean water, sanitation is a right of every nation. Economic growth inclusive and sustained through industry innovation and purely dedication. Yeah, infrastructure be gain, reduce inequality for sure, make human settlements secure, take urgent actions to combat climate change, conserve life below water and land, ensure we do not estrange. Justice for all the peaceful and empathetic nations. Let us all partner to achieve these goals and provide much needed salvation. Each one teach 10, no compensation. Each one teach 10, no compensation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and I'm really happy to be back here with another episode. So, good morning, good evening, namaste, hola, bonjour, g'day mate, and maharapan. This is Namya Joshi, your host for the day. Welcome to episode 66 of the podcast, Each One Teach 10, An Amazing World of STEM, an inspiring venture where we'll be discussing that STEM is part of every day for every kid. We all will be learning together how to build a STEM culture. Well, for today, I have a guest who I've met before during a wonderful event that was held at our school, Satyan Innovation Fest. Any guesses? Well, you already know the title. That's Mr. Evo Hannan. So, hello. Nice to have you here.
How's it going? Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's amazing to have you here. And since I was saying, we had this event organized in our school. That was the third time Satyan Innovation Fest. It's all about, schools coming all over the country about, working towards innovation and entrepreneurship. And we were actually really honored to have Mr. Evo as one of the chief guests and the judges in the event. So he basically lit the entire event with his wonderful energy and joyful personality. And we totally enjoyed having you there. And today meeting you again after a couple months, I'm really happy and grateful that you came on my podcast to enlighten everybody joining us today on YouTube and also listening to us on Spotify later.
Yeah, I mean, it's Namya. I am a big fan of you and your work and how you support education, not only through STEM, but just through your innovative ways to make sure it reaches as many people as possible. So honestly, the real honor is mine to be here, and thanks for yourself and your school community at Satpur Till School. It was an amazing few days to spend with you and connect with your students and teachers. You just do some amazing things at your school. So yeah, it was what an adventure that was for those few days.
Thank you so much. All right, so I would love to give an introduction about Mr. Evo to you. So Mr. Evo Hannan is the founder of Innovation X, a big thinking company that helps inspire a new way of thinking to move education forward. And before devoting his work to Innovation X, he served as a head of innovation at a number of schools in Dubai and has been teaching design for 2 decades. He's also featured in several publications in the Middle East and UK, and has gone on to speaking about his passion for innovation and change in the education across the world, as well as has been a 2-time TEDx speaker. He's currently using his passion for education to develop a fusion a community brand to support teachers. So I'm really honored to have you here, and also, would love to know more about the work that you're doing right now and what's the story, for the upcoming projects that you're working upon.
Thanks, Namya. So, I mean, it kind of, the way that you've just mentioned my history in design, I think anyone who's creative, and I don't know if you can connect to this, anybody else who's listening, it's quite hard to sometimes keep your creativity down. So after teaching design and promoting innovation, predominantly in Dubai in the Middle East for about a decade, I found myself teaching students to think big, develop brands, develop startup companies. But I'd never actually done that myself. So when I relocated to the UK, I started Innovation X with that very same purpose, Namya. The idea were to make a difference in the education space. There's different stakeholders and there's different problem areas, and they evolve and change. So I wanted to create a company that enabled me to be able to collaborate with people to solve some of these problems so things can adapt without feeling like I had to kind of stay to one lane. So essentially, Innovation X as a company, really, its main priority is to help reimagine education and to collaborate with others to do that in its mission. And so you mentioned Fusion, for example. That's an Instagram magazine which supports teachers to share their voice and their passions. For anyone who's listening, you can go to fusion.mag.uk on Instagram and you can find it there. Launched it in January. Every month there's a new issue and a new edition. That's going pretty cool. We've currently got a Design for SDGs project, which I know we've spoken quite a lot about. Namya, that's going to be taking place at BET 2024 in January in London, which I know somebody else will be attending. This amazing host, guys, is going to be attending as well. So I'm going to get to catch up with her in London. We've also started doing some work with schools and groups of schools to try and drive vision and innovation forward. We did some work with some schools in the States last year. We're now doing some work with schools in the UK. And there's all these other little bits and pieces that seem to kind of drop in and stuff. So there's a lot going on, and it's pretty cool. Like, you get to work with some cool people. You get to connect with some cool people like yourself, Namya, and your community. And it really gives me a reason to get up in the morning and stay focused and stay motivated.
Absolutely, that's amazing. Like you mentioned that you started Innovation X to make a difference in the education space because you actually saw that something was lacking, the spark that was lacking, and that it also helped you to collaborate with people and actually helped you and them as well to reimagine education. And I really like the idea of Design for SDGs. And like you said, like in that way, you get to connect with new cool people. And like you said, the reason to get up in the morning, your ikigai, like the purpose to wake up every morning. That's amazing.
Thanks, Namya. Thank you very much.
All right. So, you're passionate about improving education for the wider community and stepping out of the classroom and introducing yourself as a founder. Before devoting your work to Innovation X, you've also served, like I mentioned before, as a head of innovation at a number of schools in Dubai and have been teaching design for 2 decades. And that's awesome. So what was your thought behind starting the Innovation X? Like you mentioned, you actually got to learn for yourself, but what was that key thought that make you think that, yes, I have to start this thing?
The key thought was I often found I would come up with ideas for some of the schools I worked in that just seemed a little bit too ahead of their time. So I, as someone who's meant to be promoting creativity and pushing boundaries, I would suggest some of these ideas. And it just didn't seem to fit within the strategic plan, even though at that moment in time, I thought it'd give our school an edge. I thought it'd give us an ability to be able to differentiate ourselves. So it only takes that a few times before you realize that your days are going to really be limited in a school space. Because if the ideas that come to you innately can't be accepted by your peers, You need to change your environment. And so it was that coupled with the concept that I was speaking a lot about starting companies, creating startups, creating brands, creating visions and missions. But I'd never ever actually lived that myself. And I always found that a bit hard. It was like I'm trying to give kids advice to inspire and motivate them to do things I can't even speak about firsthand. I'm only speaking about through case studies. So yeah, it was a bit of both. And now I almost feel that I could have technically started a little bit earlier, because I'm really enjoying this journey with connecting with people and promoting big thinking.
Absolutely, totally agree with that. It helps you, like you said, that you need to change your environment, and actually that gives you a way to step out of your comfort zone and realize that what is exactly your passion is. And like you also mentioned that you were training children about starting their own startups, but you got away to Innovation X to live your own advice and your own teaching that you were sharing to your students. So you actually realized, what you were teaching, and also you were learning your teaching at the same time. That's absolutely amazing.
Thanks, Damia. It's we're all on our own journey, aren't we? And we're just trying our best to find our purpose.
Absolutely. We've got like many comments coming in. So like there's sarcastic CJ, that's my brother right there. You met him, like remember?
Yeah, I met him. Yeah.
Yep.
How's it going? Hope you're well.
This Clone Futura, thank you so much for chiming in. There's my mom. Hey, Evo.
Hi, Monica. Hope you're well. Thank you for tuning in.
Here's one of my friends at school, Jana Bambi. She's saying hello to you.
Hey, Jana. Hope you're well. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you have I hope you're okay, taking in questions from the chat if there are any. All right, so if you have any questions, do type them in the chat box. We'll take that for sure. All right, so moving to my next question. So you were saying that you've given students a way to start their own startups. So how do you inspire and motivate your students to innovate?
I think the biggest checkpoint for students to innovate is to give them the understanding that innovation enables them to be able to live the type of life that they want. If you kind of live a life that other people dictate to you, you end up living a life that they've predominantly created for you, almost a future that they've created for you. If you live through the ability of creating your own ideas and using your passions to drive yourself forward and drive ideas forward, you're much more likely to shape your life the way that you want to. And then I would use case studies as examples of ways that people did things that seemed very impossible, and then they ended up creating things that have now made them a household name, people taking risks. The ability for students to be able to take risks and push boundaries when you're young, because as you get older, that door kind of closes, and that is something that I speak about from my lived experience, is that idea that as a teacher of, let's say, 15 years, it's much harder for me to start my own business than if I was young and I had years ahead of me, and because you've got more opportunity and more time to be able to make a few of those mistakes and so on. So it's difficult, Namya, because education systems aren't built to create innovators and entrepreneurs. They're built to create grades to inspire students to go to university, to study further, to then get a career based on what they studied. I was then coming from a whole different angle, basically saying you have the ability to create your own journey despite what grades you get. And that was a lot of the messaging that I was giving to students, really.
Absolutely. Like you said, basically give them the understanding. Innovation enables them to live the life that they want to live, and the way actually they can shape it their own way, however they want to. And I actually agree with that. The younger you are, the more ideas and more skills you can refine. Because I've seen this thing like myself that younger people actually have a curious mindset and more inquisitive mindset, that they have a why in every single thing. But when it comes to people who are a little bit older, like they'll be like, okay, just let's go with that. But I think people who are young, they always have a question that why are we doing it that way? So because they have the ability to learn more things, and they want to understand why are we doing some things in a certain way, and what is the reason of doing that. So when the more knowledge we keep on attaining, the better we come at attaining more skills as well. And I think that's when I agree with you, because um, the maximum skills that we're getting up until the age of 2021, they go ahead forever in our life. So it's important that we start something and innovate at young age, so that we can improve that at a older age as well. Because starting something, like, I think I totally agree with you, we have lots of pressures to handle, but at our age we actually can devote time to things that we love to do. That's basically our passion. And like you said, grades don't define you in any way. They're important, of course, but they're not the only thing that actually matter. You need to have a good personality, and a person who's actually having more skills, and a person who's knowing the ethics as well of how to live life in a proper way.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yep. And there's a common, like, I remember how he guided students at SIF to be proudly say that, always introduce you, like, I am the founder of EF. I remember that. Yeah, I am the founder of
Yeah,
some.
take ownership.
Yes,
Introduce yourself as the person that you want to be, and you're starting that journey now. That confidence needs to be instilled in yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you for
absolutely.
remembering, Monica.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And that just reminded me of that as well. Like, I was there recording you in my phone, and you said, like, I'm the
Oh,
founder.
yeah.
Yep. Right. So my next question for you is, like, how can we develop a culture of innovation in our schools?
So, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying before. There are certain schools who still prioritize grades over what I would say the soft skills that are needed for the future workplace. I think leadership needs to identify ways to promote risk taking within leadership, within their staff body, and then within their student body. And I think it needs to, with innovation in particular, it can go bottom upwards. So it can start with the students and go upward. But generally, if the people at the top are afraid to take risk, whenever students come up with ideas, they won't go very much higher because the people above them don't want to take any risks. So the culture needs to really start from leadership. Leaders need to understand that by taking risks, it helps schools evolve, it helps create opportunities, it helps students have a bit more ownership and agency over their work and their voice. And essentially, that should then filter back down to their academic success, because you're instilling a sense of spirit, creative entrepreneurial spirit, that will then provide confidence within students to say, well, if I can do this, then I can also be able to study hard and do that, and I can also do this, and I can also do this, and so on and so forth. It's like a knock-on effect. So I would say, for anyone who's listening out there, any leaders, please consider how innovation can play a part in your roles, and then how you can promote it further down. So when it gets to the student level, it makes sense, and as they make suggestions, they're not just blocked. That's a practical reality that I've seen in some of the schools that I've visited. Not sat Paul Mattel, because you guys seem to be absolutely smashing it with innovation, and you've done a wonderful job promoting an innovation culture of innovation in your school.
Thank you. And that's actually true that schools do prioritize grades over skills. Some of them, like quite of them do. But like you mentioned, that leadership, risk taking, especially in the staff body, student body, is very important. That we need to develop a culture of leadership that helps students to evolve and helps to instill a sense of creative entrepreneurial spirit in them. And that makes them think that I can do anything that I want to do. And it's like, that's something not I want to do, but if I try, I can do that as well, because there's no boundaries. Like when there's no boundaries, there's no burden. So basically, that's how you can evolve as a better person, as a whole new person who's good and who's able to adjust and also is able to evolve by creating new things and innovating for themselves and for the society.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, look at you, Namya. Look at where you are now. You're on episode 66. When did you start your podcast?
November 14, 2020.
So November the 14th, 2020 is when you started your podcast.
Yes.
And leading up to your podcast, did you ever think you would get to episode 66?
I had a vision, but
You had a
I never.
vision.
Yeah.
See, so there you go. I mean, if you don't start, you're never going to get there, right? And
Absolutely.
here we are having a chat from different countries, different continents in the world, all about
Yeah.
our journey. So there you go. Anyone who's listening, you need to start. And here is an example for you with Namya and the wonderful things you're doing already.
Thank you. And basically, like I've already thought how I would celebrate the 100th episode. So like now I have the thing in mind. I have to get more episodes to reach to the 100th episode. And like every episode for me is a way to learn, and also like the audience who listens to all my episodes and to wonderful people like yourself is a way for them, to inculcate ways of learning in the. Oh yeah, 75th episode is on 14th November 2023. Nice.
Oh, 75th episode is going to be on the 14th. There you go then. Well, let's see. Let's see how this all goes. It looks like you've got it all planned out.
Yep. And like Miss Monica says, the leadership needs to identify to take the ownership to take tasks. Risks.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
We've also Miss Isaacs EdTech joining us from USA. Been a long time. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Mr. Isaacs. I hope you're well. Thanks for joining us from New Jersey.
There's also a question from Jenna. I wanted to ask you, what do you feel we students should focus more on, our studies or a business we started because of our vocational classes, as both are equally important? How to take out time?
Okay, so I think in the life of a student, they're both equally important. Because each one can open doors, and you don't want to close any doors. In regards to making time, the truth is, you will always make time for things you care about. You will always make time for the friends you care about. You will always make time for the passions you care about. You'll always make time for your family that you care about. So if you care about it enough, you will make time. An example is Namya making time to do a podcast. If you care about it, you will find the time to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I totally agree with that, because I personally have been seeing people having a busy schedule, but still they take out time to do the things that they love. Like if you want to read a book, even if you're like prime minister of any big country in the world or president, but if you love reading, you could for sure do that. Thank you. That was a really lovely answer. Thank you, Jana, for the question.
Thank you for the question.
All right. So we have a fun segment question for you now. Honestly, I've never asked this to anyone on my podcast before, but it just struck me like I want to ask this today. I want you to share a spooky experience that you've experienced, two experiences. Okay. I want you to share a spooky experience that you have, been through in your entire lifetime till now. I'm really interested in horror stories. I don't know, apparently.
Horror stories, spooky experiences. I think I've been quite one of those lucky ones that I haven't really had anything that majorly spooky has happened to me. However, I do need to say, watching certain things like horror movies, I don't cope with them very well. Like, they really like get me. And going into things like haunted houses at theme parks, they like really get me. Like, I'm like, whoa, like that. So I think it's, my imagination is just like really overactive. Things that have happened that were almost like, I can't believe that's just happened. I'd say, if I could give that as an example, I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy when I think back on it. It was really, really wet. And I was driving and I was going on a bend. And I was driving around this bend and I was obviously driving a bit fast. And it was when it was young. I'd only been driving for maybe 6 months. So I didn't quite have the same knowledge as I have now. And my car spun on the bend and was facing the traffic. And this was a 17 mile an hour bend. So it was like a soft bend, but it was on a motorway. And I was facing the traffic, the oncoming traffic, and I thought, if anything comes around that bend, I'm an absolute goner. I'm gone. And I paused, waited, because I almost expected something to come around the bend. Nothing did. I started my car up. I swung it back round. I got it back in the right way. And just as I came to speed, another car caught up with me. So, I mean, it's not spooky, but when it comes to being a close call, I mean, that was maybe 5 seconds away from me being in a very different place.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like legit. I was legitimately like frozen in the car because I was like, the car's got to come around this bend and smash into me. Yeah. That's a true story. And then ever since that, I was a lot more careful as a driver. So, yeah.
Oh God. That reminded me of a story like that my mom's writing in the chat. Like, we saw a car without a driver. So this was back in, like, I don't remember, I was quite young. We were coming from a city called Jaipur. It's in Rajasthan. That's a state. So we were coming back. It's quite late. It's like a deserted place, and it was about probably 10:30 at night. And we were, about to reach the national highway in about 15 minutes. So since I was a little short, I couldn't see anything behind. But my mom, she saw in the rear view mirror, there was like a car behind us. And she saw that there was nobody sitting on the driver's seat. And the car was moving itself, not at a speed like, somebody's pushing it, but at a nominal speed that if somebody's driving a little bit slow, but can move, if somebody is driving the car. But what she saw is that nobody was sitting on the driver's seat, and it was moving on its own. And then she said that she looked at my father through the rear view mirror, and he also did nod like, yeah, they saw it, but they didn't speak anything. So my father literally sped up the entire car, and when he reached the national highway, they told me that they saw it. I'm like, what? So when we came back home, we told my grandparents, so like, ghosts don't get near iron, or like, I'm like, I don't know. I didn't see it, so I have no idea. But like, I have personally never had, touch wood, any horror experience till now, but that's what my mom and dad, which I didn't see, had happened. So God bless. I don't want to see any ghost my entire life. But
you don't want to see any ghost drivers.
No. If anybody has any horror experience, write in the chat. We love to read. I don't know. I'm kind of into horror these days, but I can't sleep at night. Then my mom's like, "You watch horror and then you can't sleep at night. That's your mistake."
Yeah, you might want to watch the horror movies in the afternoon, and at least that way you'll be able to sleep at night afterwards.
Absolutely, but the thing is, me is like, if I watch in the morning, it sticks me like, I saw that movie, and now it's night. What do I do? And then I'm looking at the corner through my eyes, like, is somebody there? Is somebody there? That's what happened with me. I like to watch it, but then I imagine it that it's there in front of me. So, yeah, that's me. Thanks for telling that story. Like, actually is scary. I'm really happy you're fine.
Oh, thank you. It's yeah. It's I don't really know what to think of it, to be honest. It was someone was looking down on me, I think, that day. Yeah, 100%.
Right. So let's come back to normal. I'm fine now. But I want to ask you that, what are the passions you have for you and your team?
The team I currently work with, which slowly seems to be getting bigger and bigger, our main passion is education. We are all connected to education in one way or another, and I'm very lucky to have people who believe in the projects that Innovation X is part of, and they want to help those projects move forward. I'll tell you one of the things that I'm passionate about, which directly links to myself and Innovation X, is racing. Funnily enough, and racing, we entered an Innovation X race team with a community of people in a 24-hour British karting, 24-hour kart race. It was 2 weeks ago. We had like 18 of us there. People wearing Innovation X race suits. And the passion behind that is the idea that, as a company and as our ethos is all about pushing boundaries, stepping out your comfort zones, trying something that's new. And that was a great weekend. I never thought I'd be entering a race team into, especially not a 24-hour race. It was pretty cool. But that's just an example. There's loads of other things, but a lot of it always comes back to essentially student development and inspiring students to step out of their comfort zone, take risks, and become their own. Put themselves in their own driving seat in their own lives through innovation. There you go.
Nice. That's true. Put them in the driving seat in the life through innovation. That's amazing. Totally believe in that. You have people in your team that believe in your motto and help it move forward. And that's amazing. Like you actually had a 24-hour race in a race team. That's awesome. Amazing. Okay, we have Dr. Matthew X. Joseph joining us. Wow. He's like
Hi, Matthew.
my publisher for my book.
He's a publisher for your book, yeah, and I was very fortunate to get to meet Dr. Matthew at ISTE and be on his podcast, funnily enough. What was that? 2 months ago? 7 weeks ago? Yeah, pretty awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Nice cut. You too, rock. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, so moving to my next question. I remember asking this to you in the panel discussion, but I really want the audience also, to know this answer because I was really inspired listening to this. So it's a quote, beautiful lines that are written by you, that it's a key that requires turning whenever you need to change. Whenever you're inspired to take a different approach, this key is innovation. So what is your source of inspiration to innovate?
I would say it's my parents, essentially, primarily my parents, who came to the UK in the 70s. They came earlier, and then they came in the 70s a little bit after, and raised their family. And they always promoted me to think big, to challenge myself and to take risks. And then with that kind of belief, it kind of led me to want to take more and more risks. I mean, I consider my parents, who traveled all the way from Bangladesh to reside in a country where they didn't know people, they didn't know the language, they didn't know the country, and they've raised a family there. I mean, there's no bigger risk than that when you think about it. So if they're able to do that, I'm able to do things and take risks within my arena, and hopefully do them proud. So yeah, that really gave me the confidence to question where I was and how far I could take things. And yeah, here we are.
Absolutely. Amazing. That, your inspiration are your parents, who reside, like, shifted from Bangladesh, a country where no one knows you, and that inspired you to take more risks within your arena. And absolutely, this quote, like when I read it for the first time, I myself was really inspired that, we all have different sources of inspiration to innovate, but the key always remains the same. That indeed is innovation. You might have different locks, but the key is same. It's just a way to, keep it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think to add to this, which obviously you can read between the lines, but the whole idea is that you're using that key to unlock potential. You're not storing up that potential in this safe house. You're unlocking the safe and you're opening that door to unleash the potential to be able to go and do things even further, So yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. So before we end, I would love to ask you where we can find you online, along with a message that you would like to give to the audience watching us live right now.
So online, if you want to connect with me, feel free to connect with me, Evo Hannan. You can find me on X, Twitter or X, whatever you refer it to, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, Fusion magazine, drop in, have a look at some of those articles. That's going pretty cool. designforsdgs.com to give you a bit of information on the Design for SDGs. And then I have my own website, evohannan.com, if you want to find out some more bits and pieces. So yeah, it'd be cool to connect with anyone who's listening, and see where the journey can take us. And if it comes to any message to anybody who's listening, my message to you would be to pick up that key and start turning it slowly. Because once that door opens and you look around the other side, you never really know what that life's going to bring you. So give it a go.
Wow. Absolutely. Pick up the key, slowly turn it. And when you go outside the door, you don't know what's waiting for you and to light up your life. And it just reminded me of this thing that creativity is thinking up new things, but innovation is actually doing those new things. So it's amazing actually to have you here on my podcast today, listening to the wonderful experiences that you've shared and wonderful life insights as well, that I'm sure me, along with the audience watching us, will take back today and will apply that to their life as well, to work towards creating new things and innovating on those things that they're working upon. Thank you so much, Mr. Evo, for your precious time. It was lovely talking to you again.
No problem. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day. We'll see you soon. Till then, each one, teach 10. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.